Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of our Self Securities Founders podcast. With me today is Roey Eliyahu. If you remember, Roy was with us last time as we were talking
Mhm.
about the typical journey that customers go through when they're deploying API security. And just as a refresher, last time we talked about how this journey has 3 major components. One is discovering what APIs you have to get visibility into them. The second piece is the posture of those APIs. And then the last piece is how do you stop any sort of attacks against these APIs? And so we're in the middle one. So let me ask you, Roy, on the posture governance, posture management piece, how have you seen that evolve over time in the industry to where it is now?
So let me actually take a step back, right, and see how this concept came up for APIs. So when initially we started the company, the threat protection was our focus because basically I came with the idea of here's all these attacks that most companies are vulnerable to, all these vulnerabilities, and WAF and the likes are incapable of detecting those. But very quickly, when we started to have conversation with prospects and customers and companies, they told us we don't even know where all our APIs, right? So this is how we came up with, okay, we need to provide visibility first and then we protect it. But as we start to protect it and we start to see different attacks, we realize that there is a piece missing in the middle because we're basically saying, let's detect, if I take this analogy I used last time with company being the building and all the doors and windows are the APIs. So first of all, to understand where are your doors and windows,
Yeah.
but then if you have a door open and just somebody just can open it and come inside, right? That's like a really really bad practice. This is what posture is all about. I realize that many companies have such badly designed APIs that there's so many flaws in it. You can proactively protect and secure, and you don't need to wait for an attack to come in and then to block it. So it's really like leaving a safe with the door open and just say, hey, we'll put a security camera. So if somebody comes near it, we'll try to block them. But in reality, this is not how it works. You want to put something that is safe in the beginning and then put a layer of protection just in case somebody tries to break in, because we know nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
So this is how this idea for posture came in, because we started to educate about, hey, you need to use this type of authentication. You need to make sure you have no sensitive data exposed with no authentication, basic stuff like that. You have rogue APIs not being managed. And very quickly we realized you can really codify it, right? And you can really create a set of standards of what good looks like,
Mm.
how an API should be built from a security perspective, what security mechanisms, checks you need to have in place to ensure your APIs are complying with that. And the thing that really, I think, created a lot of traction that we see in our customer base for posture governance is really because of the velocity of growth of APIs. If
Yeah.
you think about it, the more you have out of control, the more APIs you have, the more they're changing more frequently, the better you need, or the more you need some automated governance, because
Right.
security team, AppSec team traditionally would manually inspect and scan and look through, doing design kind of security reviews and so on. When you have 500 changes a day in different APIs across your company, it's impossible. So this is how we came up with the notion of posture governance and automate and govern what good looks like.
Yeah, and I think you're right in talking about the changes. I think there was some statistics that we've all talked about or we've seen in the market where 75% of APIs are updated weekly. So from small updates to major updates, but the challenge is how could you possibly keep up with that, right? So the current way, right, is like you said, it's manual. Maybe people are putting things in Word documents or shared documents or maybe spreadsheets that they're sharing,
Mhm.
but it doesn't scale, right? And it doesn't tell you like, well, what do you do? So if something is not working like you intended, what do you do about it? Which I think probably leads to my next question for you is, one of the areas that we continue to have as one of our main drivers of our culture and our values is innovation, right? And continuing to innovate on behalf and for our customers so that they can advance their businesses. Some innovation that we've done around posture. Maybe talk a little bit about what we've done there.
Yeah, so we observed a lot of our customers to really understand what they need, right, and what's missing. And then we realized that something is interesting. 80% of all the posture governance for companies are actually similar. You need to make sure that you have no data is exposed without authentication, no sensitive data. You want to make sure you implemented authentication, authorization correctly. You want to make sure from a data security standpoint, you governing where data goes and so on and so forth. So we realize that 80% is similar. There's 20% that is unique to the industry, to the company, right? It depends on the apps, the business criticality of the apps, and so on and so forth. And then we thought, okay, what can we do to address both the 80% and the 20%? So I said the 80%, what really differentiated us there is we created a policy hub. So instead of building from scratch all your policies, which can take weeks or months, and that's assuming that you have the knowledge of what's needed, we said we have a comprehensive view of all of our customers and we have our Salt Labs. Let's just create it for our customers. So we create an app store experience where they can simply click based on different categories and apply different policies based on the category of if it's access, if it's data security, and so on and so forth. So that's for the 80%. Make it super simple to adopt best-in-class posture governance. On the 20%, we made a wizard, essentially, and a policy builder that allow customers to create any type of policy with any logic they can think about. Anything they would like to govern that exists in a Word document, we can automate it using our product. So we gave them very flexible engine that they can really govern anything they want about their APIs. If they want to know, hey, which APIs are login endpoints and do not have rate limiting in their API gateway, they can govern that. If they want to govern which APIs are not being scanned for vulnerabilities, but only the ones that have sensitive data in it, and only the ones that resides in this environment, and any type of condition logic you can think about, we give them full flexibility. So what really differentiates us there, that this level of flexibility and granularity allows to create policies that others simply cannot. They create more basic cases. So we really, because of our customer base, we thought about every possible case. So I would welcome anyone to come and challenge us to see if there is a standard we cannot incorporate into the product. But this is how we cover the 80%. Adopt out of the box, and the 20% give them the flexibility they need to create it with the right severity, the right logic, and of course connect it to their internal systems.
I mean, the ability to do the customization is it's key, because like you said, there's, even if it's 20% and it could be plus or minus that number, people still are there are unique things going on in their organization that you need to be able to customize it and tailor to. But to hit that 80% with something as familiar as like an app store, where you can go in and say, oh, I take credit cards, so I need a policy that relates to PCI, and I'm able to just click once, and that policy gets created, and then ongoing I get flagged if there's anything out of policy. Wonderful, makes it super easy for the customers.
And I'll just add, MC, I think the simplest way to think about API posture governance is the same way you think about cloud security and CSPM. When cloud security started, and you had all these cloud workloads, the first thing cloud security tool did is CSPM, is I want to make sure I don't have an S3 bucket exposed with sensitive data. That's the equivalent of an API exposed sensitive data without authentication, right? So the same type of concept just applicable to APIs. Same as you have cloud workload protection for detecting threats, but you want to start with the basics. You want to make sure that you don't have a door open to your crown jewels and anybody can just simply access it. And you'll be surprised how many of those exist. In every company we come in, we see these type of examples, these low-hanging fruits that reduce so much risk. So you want to start with that and start to enforce govern what good looks like. But of course, in the next episode, we'll talk about, okay, we did that. What do we do about threats and how do we mitigate those? But that's all safe for.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to summarize it. So I'll just to say it again. So everyone, what we have found is that people go through a pretty consistent or pretty common journey as they're going through API security. It starts with the visibility, both from an external perspective of what does an attacker see, to internally discovering everything you have. So you have that visibility. Second piece, which we talked about today, was how do you manage that and put policies in place to know if you're working within or without a policy. And then last piece is this threat protection piece. So we'll spend more time next time going into that. So please join us again when we do the next Founders podcast. Roy, thank you again for being here. And for everyone else, we will see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.